Speaking of the Alabama Crimson Tide, they are going to be in Baton Rouge, Tiger Stadium at night. Both of these teams, traditionally they get that off week, then they come in for this early November clash. Man, and a lot of implications, obviously, across the board, but both of them just need it. Like both of these teams need this one really, really bad. We've had years where Alabama LSU is for a spot in the SEC championship game. I'm not sure that's where we're at right now. I haven't run the math on that, but I do know that given what's ahead for both these teams potentially, it's an absolute must-have game. Now, in terms of the matchup, Tom, where do you think it'll be decided?
It's hard to say, honestly. We just talked about it 2 seconds ago, and I've harped on it when we've talked about LSU and these big game breakdowns all year. Like, they can't run the ball. They don't really bother trying to run the ball. Will they be able to run the ball in this game? I don't know, because like they rank 118th in success rate on the ground, 89th in EPA, 79th in explosive, and they're 127th in rush rate. So it's like they're like, man, we suck at this. Let's just not do it. Let's just put the ball in Garrett Nussmeier's hands, and that might. I still feel like you're better off trying to at least maintaining some semblance of it, because if you look at Alabama's defense, like they're 20th in EPA per rush, but it's a little misleading because they're 39th in explosive and they're 57th in success rate. So you're not getting the big plays against them on the ground, but you can kind of, keep the offense on schedule against this Alabama defense. You can get yourself in a second and short rather than being in a second and 10. So I do think they should still try, but the most interesting aspect of the matchup to me is because I don't think they will try, even if they should. I think this is going to be Garrett Nussmeier versus Alabama, which is how LSU is trying to win games most time. So if you look at how Alabama has defended so far this year, while they're not at the top, they are in the top third of the country as far as playing man coverage. Like they play more man than most teams. Will they change that around in this game? Because if you break down Nuss's performance this year against zone, he's got a 2.8 touchdown percentage and a 3.7 interception rate. Against man, 8.9% touchdown rate, not a single interception yet. He has done very well when defenses give man coverage against him because A, he's got the receivers to do it, and B, he's very good in the pocket at manipulating it, standing around, moving around, and getting the throw off. So he just waits for his guy to get open against man, and then he can make that throw because he's got a damn cannon attached to his shoulder and a whole hell of a lot of belief in it. The other side of this is Alabama defensively, a lot of the reason they're playing man a lot of the time is because they can't generate pressure with a 4-man rush. They need to blitz a lot to get pressure most of the time. They are 14th nationally in blitz rate. Nussmeier versus the blitz, 10.5% touchdown rate, still not an interception. He's been sacked twice. 2 of those were last week or in his last game. So I just think the way Alabama defends does not play to their favor in this matchup. So it will be interesting to see if Alabama changes things up defensively or if they go with what they've been doing. And if they go with what they've been doing, I think Nuss might tear them apart.
Yeah, I could see this shootout as well. Think about what A&M did to LSU when Wegman was not getting anything done. They went QB run game. In the biggest Alabama games this year, it's been Milroe's legs. Why would we expect anything different here? Assuming Milroe got right over the bye week, and I think maybe that was one of the most advantageous bye weeks that any team's had this year, because like that's their best weapon is Milroe's legs, not his arm. I would expect him to have 10+ design carries in this game. I mean, you got to think they're going to run the hell out of him. We talked about this all preseason. Like DeBoer ain't about, hey, let's develop you for the NFL. If it happens, it happens. DeBoer's trying to win ball games. And many times before, he has just run the absolute crap out of his quarterback. I would expect that to happen here because Bama can win the rest of their games without having to run him at all.
After Saturday.
It's Oklahoma, it's Auburn, and it's
Mercer.
Right. So if he gets like 5 design carries in those games combined, cool. In this game, it's pedal to the metal on Milroe's legs early, often, as much as you need.
Are we sure it's the legs? Are we sure it's injuries? Because the South Carolina game was the game that I thought he got banged up in. and he had 18 carries for 36. I just think teams are more dialed in, and I don't know if their receivers are very good outside of Ryan Williams. I think they get a little bit too one-dimensional, throw into him. So you start shading safeties towards him, give him a little bit of help, and hope you don't absolutely crush you. So I'm a little bit worried that even if Jalen Milroe is healthy, like, does he still have that, or can he do as much damage as he's done in the past with his legs? Because I do think he'll have to. And I totally agree with you. I absolutely love, every quarterback would love throwing against man coverage. Like, you tell me it's man, I don't have to worry about looking off. I don't have to worry about timing and rhythm. I can hang with guys. I can let them win. All of that. Give me those matchups every single time. And I am not convinced that Alabama's secondary is fixed because of facing Drew Pine and pitching a shutout in that game.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
So Nussmeier. So Nussmeier clearly was rattled on the road versus a better defensive front. Like, now he's at home playing against a defensive front, which isn't as good as A&M's. I'm leaning towards LSU in a higher scoring game. And can you trust Alabama in that higher scoring game? And can Milroe go toe-to-toe with Nussmeier?
I'm also interested to see how LSU plays without Dellinger.
Ross? He doesn't cover them anymore.
Well, Garrett Dellinger, one of their pretty good offensive linemen. He had tightrope surgery. He's going to miss the game. Maybe he'll be back before the end of the season. I don't know they have great offensive line depth. Not that anybody really does, but Bama's D-line's been pretty decent this year at getting home at times. And I wonder how Bama play. Like, I thought at times against Beck they played well, and then at times obviously gave up almost 50. So sort of not perfect. But if they don't have to account for the QB legs, are they a little bit better? We'll see. Because obviously Nuss is not a huge run threat.
No. Who's got the coaching edge?
In big games, I'm taking DeBoer.
Yeah, right now I think. Let's
At
see.
home, though, off a bye, Brian Kelly's been pretty good.
I know. Where's my stats?
Here, I'm just gonna bring this up real quick. Like, in big games this year, they've lost to USC. They beat Ole Miss by 3. They've lost to Texas A&M. This is at home, and this will be the Ole Miss game was at home, so obviously that is something in their favor. But I just feel like in big games this year, Brian Kelly has fallen short. And I know Alabama has lost to Vandy, and I know that they've had problems too, but I just think that the track record from what I have seen in recent years has me leaning towards Kalen DeBoer.
Is this the best offensive line LSU has faced?
All right. Here you go.
And if so, by how much?
Okay. All right. LSU's offense. It's not USC.
Nope.
Not South Carolina. Not UCLA.
Nichols? Yeah, no, this is the best offensive line they face.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. They're like, oh, this D-line's improved, and they got some guys that are playing well. And I'm like, okay. And A&M, which did not look great offensive line-wise against South Carolina, A&M shoved them.
That was on the road, though. That's the one thing I keep noticing is that decent offensive lines really struggling on the road.
Yeah, but A&M got completely overwhelmed at home, too, by Notre Dame. Whenever they faced a good defensive line, they've gotten beat up.
My point is, like, how fixed do we think this LSU defense actually is? I don't know.
Well,
I'm skeptical.
Fair, but they also can just play well. It's like they've got like the bare requisite talent that if they also go out there and play really well, then they can look a lot better. But you can say that's not their median. Like that's not what they're going to be delivering across the board. And maybe not going to be able to trust in a game like this against an offense like Alabama.
The chat is saying this Bama offensive line is not that good, but I'm who is good then?